Beware, you're in for a scare.
Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Alrighty, happy Halloween, my artists. We got our Halloween review of the year, the Halloween special review that drops on the 31st. I'm recording this fucking goddamn July, so it's a whole thing. I am early on this shit. When it comes to what we're reviewing this year, usually I've done Hoobie Halloween and I've done fucking Talk to Me. This year, we're going to be taking a look at Candle Cove, Channel Zero, the TV adaptation of the creepypasta of Candle Cove. It's a 6-episode series. It's not that long. When I first watched it, I remember a couple years back, probably like 2019, I want to say, I really enjoyed it myself. That was like one of the only good creepypastas out there anyway, so, only competent ones, to be fair. If you people actually enjoy stuff like Jeff the Killer, I pity you, because that shit's ass, dog. It's fucking 2 packs of ass. Straight up. So, on that note, Sci-Fi decided to buy the rights to Candle Cove and make a little series about it. They did this with multiple, short stories and creepypastas with the show called Channel Zero, which we'll be looking at. It's the first season is Candle Cove, so that is what we will be looking at. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get to episode 1 of Channel Zero, Candle Cove. Alrighty, Channel Zero, Candle Cove, episode 1, You Have to Go Inside. This episode started off with our main character, Mike, and basically he's having this not psychotic, but kind of like dream, basically, a dream sequence where he's talking about how he's a doctor and that he is, just talking about his accomplishments. And the person interviewing him says, "Oh, well, we have a kid here that wants to talk to you about a tragedy that they went through, since you went through a tragedy, a tough tragedy." And basically, while he's talking to that kid, he gets all anxious and worried and whatever. And then the kid starts laughing, and it says, "Mike, you have to come home," pretty much. And then he wakes up from the dream. Then he goes off to his mother's house. Of course, he's aged up. He's aged up. This is Mike. Mike is the character we follow, but we follow a lot of his backstory with his childhood and his twin brother and everything, because his twin brother died. He was part of a specific chain of murders in the 80s, 1988 to be specific. And Mike is basically there to investigate it, even though he says that he's there for to write a book, because he's written multiple books and everything, but he's there to investigate the fact that or why his brother went missing, basically. And he's talking to his mom. Basically just says he's here to stop by. Doesn't say anything about investigating or anything, and just catches up pretty much. Then he goes to the police station, and he is talking with an old friend named Gary, who's now the sheriff. And Gary basically just like, how are you doing? How's it going? They're catching up, and then he's like, can I have those files? Can I please have the files? Basically, the files meaning the murders that happened in '88. And Gary is very hesitant, but he does agree to help with the files after Gary says for a book. And Gary then invites him to dinner, basically to see like all the old friends that they had and everything. And we get that scene of the dinner, and it's fine. It goes fine at first, and they're talking, and they're like whatever. Then Mike asks for where the bathroom is. He goes to the bathroom, and he sees one of their daughters, Katie. And pretty much after he sees Katie, he realizes that she's just staring at a blank screen and saying that she was watching TV and everything. What she was watching Candle Cove. That's the gist of what she was watching. And basically, while watching Candle Cove, as soon as Mike gets there, the TV turns off. So he asks how she's doing, that he's friends with her mom and everything, and he asked, what are you watching? She then off screen tells him that she was watching Candle Cove. He then freaks out, starts going to the fucking table again after he went to the bathroom and sat there, and he's like, hey guys, do you remember Candle Cove? And they all talk about their memories of Candle Cove. Some saying that it was just, there was nightmares, that the show was like a nightmare. Some saying that the episodes that sounded like nightmares were actually actual episodes. And then Mike gets distressed and leaves because he can't handle the stress of the show, pretty much. Then he goes back home, and he's talking with his mom in the fucking morning, I should say. God, my brain is fucked. Recording all these has just made these reviews, made my brain mush. Getting there. I'm enjoying reviewing this though. It's a good blast from the past. But he's talking to his mom in the morning, and he finally tells her he's been having nightmares, and that's why he came back. He's been having nightmares. He's been basically having really, really bad, I want to say it's like psychotic episodes, but that's what they allude to. And then we find out that Katie has went missing, and she is in a place that we'll talk about later. I will say that Mike has a lot of flashbacks, to where he has a lot of flashbacks, and it's about his brother Eddie, and they're twin brothers, and a lot of it's fucked. One of them, a bully, just straight up just breaks Eddie's finger, and Eddie increasingly, it shows when they first started watching Candle Cove, and then after that, Eddie increasingly is just getting more violent and hostile, and also kind of calculated in a way. I guess to get revenge. I don't know, but that's the gist of that, to where it gets really creepy in a way. Like, Eddie's character is just really fucking creepy. It's not like his fault. It's just because of how the fucking show goes and how the story is and everything. One thing I did want to mention, and I think that helps this series, I didn't realize this until I watched this episode back. Apparently, this was executive produced by Don Mancini, so that surprised me. And also being like the story obviously was helped by the actual creepypasta writer, which I actually need to see what his name is, because I want to credit him real quick. Let's see. Chris Straub. And he helped with it as well, which is really nice. Like, this is a really good adaptation to a good creepypasta, if I'm being completely honest. But back to it. Katie's missing. They find the search team and everything, and fucking, I can't remember her name, but Gary's wife is like goes to Mike, and she's like, you were gone for like 5 hours last night, your mom said. And he's like, no, I was just walking, because he sleepwalks and everything. He was gone for like 5 hours. And basically, she thinks that he's just having a psychotic break, because he then starts to tell her that the show is the reason why her daughter is missing and all this shit. And then when he finally goes and leaves, she gets upset, tells Gary that Mike might know where she is. And then fucking Mike sits there and gets these visions of the skeleton character, and it takes him to the woods. The crow's nest is what they call it, what him and Eddie called it. And he finds Katie at the crow's nest, but not before and after. Like, after fucking he finds her and takes her, the monster that we see, it's a monster that's made of teeth, just goes around from the corner, and he takes 2 of Katie's teeth. And after that, he's questioned by Gary and everything. But fucking after that, it seems normal. And then we get the bombshell of him talking to his mother, because he's about to leave, because he can't do it anymore, can't like handle all the shit from Candle Cove. And he's talking to his mother, and she tells him that they weren't watching a show, they were watching pure static. And the episode ends with a flashback to Gary's wife, Eddie, and fucking Mike as kids watching Candle Cove on the TV. And then present day Mike getting a call from the kid from the beginning of the episode saying, "What are you doing, Mike? We're just getting started." God, this show is really fucking good. Like, I forgot how good it was, and I'm excited to review more of it. There's 5 more episodes. Man, this is amazing. But on that note, my thoughts pretty good so far. I think it could only go up from here. So on that note, let's get to the next episode out of 6. Alrighty, Channel 0, Candle Cove, episode number 2, I'll Hold Your Hand, is what this was called. Basically, the episode started off with another fucking flashback scene where this old man sits there and finds goddamn the 4 bodies of the 5 out of the 5 fucking of the Iron Hill goddamn murders that I talked about in the last episode. And fucking so after that, we then see Katie watching Candle Cove, and then she just fucking attacks her brother with a hook, and that just sets off a whole fucking spiral of events. Mike comes back to town after trying to leave, and then Mike's mom says that she will help Mike sit there and figure out everything. Gary's wife then mentions that, like, it tells Gary that Mike's coming back and he's gonna talk to Katie, while Mike's mom just sits there and does all this, like, detective work and finding out shit. Mike decides to talk to Katie, and it doesn't really go that well. Fucking not much is said. Katie is pretty unresponsive, and it's a situation where he then starts seeing Eddie, and cracks start to unfold pretty much. Another thing that happens is Mike's mom goes and sits there and talks to this TV channel, like, operator, one that can control, like, the local channels and shit. And she asks about Candle Cove, and he's like, it's pretty much a myth. You see it when you see it. Everybody's seen it, but you can never find it in any specific channel. And you had to find Candle Cove for it to be watched. Stuff like that. Like, this is a really fucking eerie show, to be completely honest. Then we get a scene where Mike's daughter is calling Mike, and Mike sits there and answers. They're having a normal conversation, and then she just randomly says, "You have to go inside, Mike." And she ends the conversation swiftly because she's not supposed to talk to Mike at all anyway. Then Mike's mom gets back to the house, and fucking after that, they talk about how the drawing that Mike takes from the hospital looks like a certain place in the town. So Mike and his mom go to that specific place where Mike is having so many flashbacks after all the stuff that has gone on in his childhood. And basically fucking he tells his mom to stay there, don't go with him, and he goes up into the plant type deal area, like the abandoned plant, and lo and behold, he finds Eddie's remains, which is very heartbreaking and damaging to hear, especially because of how Mike takes it and how his mom fucking dies inside after hearing about it and everything. The police show up. Gary's there, and he's telling his mom. His mom's name is Martha, I believe. And he's telling Martha, "You don't have to be here for this. This is a very heartbreaking situation. You don't have to be here." And Martha has also talked to this like childhood teacher of Eddie and fucking Mike, and she's really kind of forced into the story until the end of the episode. Of course, we'll see why, but it's like, I guess one of her kids is one of the kids that passed, as well. And then Mike has this psychotic episode where he sees one of the Candle Cove characters and is just terrified until he finally goes and tells Martha that what happened. He asked if she loved him and everything, and he sits there and he tells her that he killed Eddie and he buried him, but the police didn't find where they buried him, which I feel like keep in mind it's been like 5 years since I've watched this season of Channel Zero, but I feel as if that's gonna be a cop-out. I don't think they're actually gonna make it to where he was the one who murdered Eddie because of the guilt that he felt, but we're gonna get to that. He said there was more to it, but his mom wouldn't let him talk about it. His mom tells Gary about it, and basically after that, Gary takes him into custody to ask a few questions about what Martha had said. Then Mike has a flashback to him watching Candle Cove with Eddie, and then it cuts back to Mike and Gary, and Gary missed the turn to the police station, and that unfortunately means that they are stuck. Well, not stuck, but Mike is stuck at least in some situation that we'll probably find out the next episode. We then get one last little tidbit of information. So the teeth monster that I talked about in the last episode, it showed up one time. I don't know if it's he or she or what the fuck it is, but it showed up once as like a hallucination type thing in the hospital earlier on in the episode. But then at the end of the episode, the old teacher that I was talking about that was like kind of like shoved into the story, she has kind of a purpose, because now we find out that she's feeding the teeth monster teeth, and it's this weird ass, gross ass teeth monster eating teeth scene out of this chick's hand, and it's weird, and it's creepy, and it's eerie. It's what the show ends off on this episode. It's just like, bro, like, what the fuck? Like, what in the absolute fuck? Oh, man. But on that note, I will say this episode was good, and it wasn't, I think it was about the same as the last episode. Same, like, it was good all the way through. Not better yet. It will get, I have a feeling it should get better. You know, better than the first and everything. It's still great. Like, I'm not even gonna lie, it's still great. So on that note, let's get to episode number 3 out of 6 of Channel Zero Candle Cove. Alright, Channel Zero Candle Cove, episode number 3. Want to see something cool? This episode was fucking, like, it was the shortest, but it was really fucking good. Like, I really enjoyed it. I think it's starting to get to where it's actually getting better as it goes on. We start off with a flashback scene of Eddie and Mike having their birthday and making a wish, blowing out the candle. And then we see some kids watching Candle Cove and everything. Some newer kids, so it's finally transitioning into the full-on, like, oh, Candle Cove is back, and it's not only has it gotten Katie, but it's getting more kids in the town. It's destroying their psyche and making them think that they should kill and torment and all this shit. And then we see Marla. I found out it's not Martha, it's Marla. And I found out Gary's wife's name is Jessica. Like, for some reason, didn't click in my brain. Fucking the first 2 episodes, it just didn't click. But Marla goes in to the police station and basically tries to sit there and fucking talk to Mike, because she's the one who got him put in the police station in the first place. But they find out, oh, well, Mike or Gary are not here. They're both not here. And they're sitting there wondering where the fuck they are. Cut back to Mike and Gary from the last episode. And Gary's talking about the last fucking house they tried to buy. And basically that sets the setting for most of the episode, because he takes them to the house and starts interrogating them at the house with their friends Tim, and I couldn't tell you the other chick's name. Didn't really seem that important. But they're basically confronting him about the murder of Eddie, and then he starts trying to explain it more, basically stating like, oh, like, you do realize that it wasn't like under my control. I had to, because Eddie, he kept telling them that Eddie basically sat there and started to get really fucking evil and possessed and all this shit. Basically saying that Eddie was killing all those children and sending them to Candle Cove, which in hindsight is actually just murdering them, because fucking Tim's brother Gene was one of the 4 that Eddie killed. And basically they showed the scene of the murder, and it was Eddie taking control, like mind controlling Gene, who was the bully from the first episode. And fucking, he's mind controlling them. They're messing around, and Mike's laughing. Everybody's laughing besides Gene and everything. And then fucking, he then says, okay, yeah, pay the toll. And the toll is 2 teeth. And then he basically says, okay, you can go to Candle Cove, now walk the plank. And Gene just falls to his death off a cliff. That is the way these murders have happened. Most of them, at least, besides Eddie's. Then they are having a conversation, Marla and Jessica, and Jessica is basically telling Marla that her and Mike have been like emailing each other a lot since, like, before Mike even came back and everything, and that they became really close, and then it all just stopped, and that Gary has pretty much changed ever since they could close on this house. And she finds out that, oh, that's where they are. And they go over there, and it gets to the point where, at this point, like, Tim is about to murder fucking Mike. And it's getting to that point to where that's gonna happen. And basically, it doesn't really happen, because Jessica and Marla get there, and everybody's trying to stop what's going on. And Mike gets shot in the, like, grazes his arm. And he gets shot in the arm. And now Gary is no longer the sheriff. And Tim and the other chick run off into the woods and everything. Then Mike is in the hospital and he's talking with the acting sheriff, which is this other cop chick that's been in the show. I just haven't mentioned her because, to be completely honest, I didn't think personally that it was that important to mention her. And now she's like the acting sheriff, so I guess I should mention her. And they changed their story about how fucking Mike confessed. Apparently he didn't confess now. And that's the gist of that, basically. Then Mike tells Jessica and Marla that he cannot sleep at the hospital, so they go home. But not before the one chick and Tim are, like, in the woods. They're in separate places. This is two different scenes. Tim gets murdered by these 4 kids that have seen Candle Cove. That ties into the whole, like, oh, the kids are starting to see Candle Cove now shit. And so he gets murdered by them. And then this other chick gets murdered by the fucking teacher. The fucking teacher is, like, possessed and murders the other chick. Says you shouldn't fuck with Mike, and that's like the gist of it. So I'm thinking the fact that it specifically said you shouldn't fuck with Mike, I'm thinking that probably could be possessed by Eddie. That's what I'm thinking. But nonetheless, fucking after that, Marla has a nightmare, and Mike goes to check on her. And then, out the window, Mike sees his daughter, Lily. And that is how we end the episode. That is how we fucking end it. It was a really good episode. Really well paced, really well done. I'm excited to see the rest of the season. We're at the halfway point. We got 3 more episodes left. So, on that note, we should probably get to the next episode. I'm just really, like, I'm trying to create theories because I haven't read the creepypasta in, like, years, and I also haven't watched this show in, like, years, so I'm trying to make theories in my head of what's going to happen next. I'm trying to gather who it's going to be or whatever, what the mystery is going to hold and everything. But, yeah, fucking, hopefully it's going to keep this, like, current, like, production and how it's good. Like, hopefully it stays good. That's what I'm trying to say. Hopefully it stays good and it stays getting better. That's my goal here. But yeah, on that note, let's get to the next one. Alrighty. Channel 0, Candle Cove, episode number 4, A Strange Vessel. This episode was even better, even though I thought there was one decision that was kind of dumb, but it's whatever. It was better than the last. But it started off with another flashback to, it's 1988, obviously, and Mike and Jessica are getting to know each other a good bit more than before, and Mike's telling Jessica about how something's wrong with fucking Eddie, and even that he like made a Percy the pirate from Candle Cove, like stuffed animal, pretty much. And Jessica's asking where Mike could have thought those kids could have gone and everything. So basically that's the gist of that. Then we go back to Lily and fucking Mike at the same night that it ended off with, and Marla's like, oh, well, you should probably let her sleep. She probably doesn't know what the fuck's going on. And then we get a scene where Jessica is talking to Gary. Gary is locked up, obviously, because of what happened last episode. And it's just not a good situation. So basically, fucking Jessica asked Gary that he shouldn't have, like, gotten locked up at this time because he's scared. And Gary asked Jessica to fucking get his gun for safety reasons because he's scared too. And it's a whole emotional scene. Then we get the acting sheriff, the one chick that I was talking about last episode that I didn't think to mention, but now has a bigger role. Fucking, she is investigating all this Candle Cove and the Iron Hill murders and everything. And this is just the... I will say, this isn't the dumb part that I thought, but I will say it was a little weird for this interaction, because unless it's going to play a big role, but this other, like, male fucking, like, cop just comes in and he's like, Sheriff. And basically he's like hitting on her. So it's just like we got so much tension in the last like 8 minutes of the episode, and then it just randomly this fucking male cop is hitting on the fucking acting sheriff. Like, so it's just like, what? Huh? Like, what? And it was like played off for a laugh and everything. Then we see more flashbacks with Mike and Eddie and Jessica. And Eddie is not too fond of Jessica, as in the fucking goddamn like flashbacks, you could tell he's not fond of them, because that's taken away from their Candle Cove time and everything. In the present, Mike and Jessica are trying to figure out what's going on with Lily. Lily then finds the Percy the Pirate doll that fucking Eddie made back in the day, to which we find out that Eddie has possessed Lily, and that's what... That was exactly like... I fucking knew that was going to come into play. I knew that was going to come into play. But then we get this weird, like, cultish fucking scene where, like, Mrs. Booth, which is the fucking teacher and shit that I was talking about earlier, like, I guess she's still a teacher, and she's, like, teaching these kids, like, they got, like, masks and shit, and they're, like, a part of like this Candle Cove cult, and it's fucking cursed and shit. But then the acting sheriff goes to the school to see about those kids that Mrs. Booth is with, and she can't find them whatsoever. Just so you know, like, that she just can't fucking find them. And she doesn't really look into it too much. Then Eddie, who has possessed Lily, tells fucking Mike how they can get Lily back. They have to burn Eddie's, like, corpse. That's what they fucking have to do. They have to burn his corpse and shit. And Jessica's like, well, I can get the corpse. I don't know. Like, I know she has, like, affiliation with the police because her husband is a fucking sheriff, but, like, I don't know how that fucking works, to be completely honest with you. Like, straight up. Like, what the fuck? But then, like, that, we'll get to that later. But then we get a scene where we find out Mrs. Booth is, like, she's known about all this Candle Cove shit. Like, she's just known about it. And then we get a scene of Jessica and Mike talking, and he has a flashback about Eddie and about how Eddie was going to kill Jessica or send him to Candle Cove. But that's when Mike stopped Eddie and took the fucking hook away, which most likely led to Mike killing Eddie and everything. So that's what that was. And then we got a whole ass scene with fucking, again, goddamn, Jessica's at the hospital and she goes and gets the corpse. Like, it's okay. And they finally go ahead and burn the corpse. And we don't know what the fuck's going on and everything until afterward, like, till later on in the episode. But then we also got a scene with fucking... Oh, well, actually, before that, we got fucking Jessica telling Mike, do you know what... Do you ever think about what could have been? And that's... You know, they were building on this romance angle, and I'm going to talk about this later, how it just does not make any sense. But... And it was kind of dumb, but... They're building on this romance angle with Mike and Jessica, but it doesn't lead to anything. Then that fucking random scene from, like, the start of the episode comes back because fucking the acting sheriff just calls that guy and they have sex. Like, I'm not even joking. So that happens. And the acting sheriff goes out to Mrs. Booth's fucking place because she wants to ask more questions and finds the one chick that died fucking last episode. And that was that. Like, it wasn't fucking really anything else. Now, I'm going to go ahead and talk about the stupid part of the episode, because this episode was better than the last, but I do think this was a stupid fucking decision. So, they have the kids and Mrs. Booth go to fucking Jessica's house, and they fucking murder her. Like, they fucking murder Jessica. So, that whole, like 4 episodes of build up to this, like, Mike and Jessica relationship, what could have been, you know, done. Nothing. They're just dead. like, that's just dead. Fucking Jessica's dead. Fucking... And that's that. And then we get the fucking last scene of the episode. It was Lily waking up asking for her mom, and fucking Mike comes in and she keeps asking questions, and he has to, like, say that you're okay. And that's where this episode ends. It was a good episode besides the stupid thing of killing off Jessica. I didn't think that was a smart decision, but I mean, we'll see where it goes. Fucking, there's 2 more episodes left. So, and now that I'm recalling, I don't think I thought that was a good decision the last time I watched it, but I do remember enjoying the last 2 episodes. So, hopefully, it's still as enjoyable as I remember it being. But on that note, let's go ahead and get to the next one. I don't know. I'm hoping it stays to this quality. I'm hoping it stays this quality or better. Like, it's getting better and better each episode. But, and I could have a gripe every now and then. Alright, I could have a gripe. But, yeah. So, on to the next fucking Channel Zero Candle Cove episode number 5. Alrighty, Channel Zero Candle Cove episode number 5, Guest of Honor. This episode got a lot better than the last one as well. It just keeps getting better, I think, and I think this the last episode after this. This is the second to last episode right now, but the last episode I think is going to be a big conclusion finale and everything. So I'm excited for it. But on that note, it started with the dead body of Jessica, and fucking Amy is the fucking, I've just figured out her name. Amy is the goddamn, like, right now she's the fucking sheriff or whatever, acting sheriff, and she finds fucking goddamn Jessica laying in the pool of her blood, literally. It's like a kiddie pool where she died at, and basically she figures out that it is fucking the kids and Mrs. Booth and Candle Cove and everything. She tends to believe that it is Mrs. Booth that created Candle Cove, and that's what she tells Mike. Mike was all relieved for the longest time until fucking his wife picks up Lily, and he was fine. And then Amy then tells Mike about this situation, and basically it seems like Mike is growing an extra like tooth. And we heard earlier in the show that Mike had an extra tooth, or Mike didn't have an extra tooth. It was Eddie that had an extra tooth. And so Mike growing an extra tooth is very concerning. But fucking Amy tells Mike that he needs to come with him to the sheriff's office so he could help explain this to the other policemen and women. And he's wanting to go see fucking all this shit go down, like where at Mrs. Booth's house and shit, and all the props and everything. But Amy is like, we got too much stuff to do, can't do that right now, and we fucking don't have anybody to go, until they decide, oh, well, we have Gary. And Gary is still locked up, obviously. He gets let out of prison to help with this. And fucking, it's kind of fucked up because his wife just fucking died. So there's that whole situation. And he is, like, he's helping look at the house while fucking Mike looks through the props and everything, and the props aren't the right props and shit. They are not accurate, basically. Like, completely accurate, I should say. And then, fucking, we get a flashback scene of goddamn Mrs. Booth having a seizure in the classroom where her son is helping her. We got a flashback scene before of that, and basically her son Jacob helps her with that, and helps her with that pain, pretty much. And Eddie comes in, and he basically mind controls her and brainwashes her by just saying stop and get up and everything. And she is now on his side fully, pretty much. Fucking then they go and try to find the kids and try to find Mike, like all the kids, I should say. And they try to find Mike as well, the police station does. And they send Simon, the guy who fucking fucked Amy in the last episode. That was like his only trait ever in this show. Like, he was just, he was romantically interested in her, and then he fucked her, and then he helps find Mike, so that way he's not alone investigating shit. And at this point, Mike had gotten a phone call from goddamn Mrs. Booth saying that she wants to meet him somewhere and everything. So she sits there and she meets him at this one place. She tries to, but then Simon gets over there and is with Mike while this is going on, and fucking Mike just says, stay the fuck here. Stay the fuck here. Don't move. Don't do anything. And what does fucking Simon do? He fucking moves, and he does everything. He goes and looks for the kids, everything. He fucks himself pretty much, and he finds this group of kids, fucking, and then he just fucking dies. It was so like his character was just there, legitimately, to fuck Amy, and then die. Like, that was basically it. Oh man, it's gotta be the, imagine you get on this fucking acting gig on this show, and that's your fucking character. You fuck a girl and you die. That's probably like, with how much he probably got paid, that's probably actually a good paycheck, actually. Oh my god. Oh, but fucking, also, Mike witnesses this, and before all this happened, I should say, fucking Lily and her mom almost got into a car accident, so they're stuck in the town. So that's a thing, that's a plot point. And fucking, so Mike passes out after all this, sees that the person who killed Simon is Mrs. Booth, and basically he fucking wakes up and he sees Lily with Mrs. Booth, because Lily had fucking sat there and walked out of the hotel room that fucking goddamn her and her mom were at, which she returns to, I should say. But he sees Lily, and he can't do anything because he's strung up like a puppet. I should say, fucking, it's like a hallucination, but the Candle Cove is a puppet show. That's why there's props and shit like that. So that is why a lot of puppet allegories. Then we got a shot of Amy, and she's like looking for everybody. She's like answering all these calls, and she's looking for things. And then she starts seeing the skeleton character, fucking Jawbone, on all the monitors, and she's seeing all of it the first time ever. And then Gary comes in and he starts seeing all of it, and he's so confused, pretty much. And then we got a scene of Mrs. Booth basically taking Marla hostage, and now they're just waiting for Mike. And Mike comes in and he sits down with Mrs. Booth and Marla, and Mrs. Booth is fucking crazy. She's fucking nutso, and she's telling Mike that he's gonna turn into Eddie's coming to take his body, and that they are one, and he loves you, Eddie. Like Eddie loves you, Mike. I meant, goddamn, my fucking brain. I've been doing this all day. Fucking. And she also says that she didn't create Candle Cove. Eddie did. So this child created this fucking god-forsaken fucking being that's in like a fucking, that's in the form of a TV show that also has a tooth monster. It's trippy, but I don't mind it. Like, it's weirdly I do not mind it. Like, so I don't know. Then fucking Mike is like at a loss for words after she leaves, and has a hallucination of fucking like him killing Lily. Oh, I actually forgot to mention another thing she mentioned, which is actually fucked up. Mrs. Booth mentioned this. Apparently, to see that vision that Eddie gave her in the flashback earlier on, fucking Eddie was like, "Oh, I need something from you." And fucking, I shit you not, Mrs. Booth gives him her son to kill. Like, the fucking feed, and she treats it as like to like boost the blazing flame that it already is. Like, I don't even fucking know, dog. It's fucked up. Oh man, it's so fucked up. Then we cut to a scene after Mike gets out of that dream sequence. We cut to a scene of Lily in bed with her mom sleeping, and Lily sees like the infamous fucking screaming episode from the creepypasta of the Screaming Candle Cove episode, which was cool to see in fucking TV. That's actually sick to see in like something as big as this. Like, that's pretty fucking cool to see. And then she gets taken by Eddie, presumably, because Candle Cove is made by Eddie. Then it cuts to a scene of Mike taking out that extra tooth, and he finally takes it out, but then he sees Lily on the TV in Candle Cove, and he has to go rescue her, basically. So that's what we're leaving off with on the next episode, and the last and final episode of this season of Channel Zero, Candle Cove. I should say this is an anthology series, so Candle Cove is only the first season, just so you know. But yeah, on that note, let's fucking get to the last episode. Alrighty, the last episode of Channel Zero, Candle Cove, episode 6. This episode was called Welcome Home. Episode was a great conclusion to the story, I think, myself. But let's go ahead and talk about it. And then I'll like get to the conclusion. We'll get to the conclusion and outro after that. But started off with Mike having a dream of him talking to Eddie, and they're reading Long John Silver, and fucking basically Eddie's saying he understands him or whatever, and Mike asks where, like, let Lily go, where can I find Lily? And Eddie says, you know where to find her, and then puts his teeth arm in his mouth, which, by the way, it turns out that fucking Eddie was the teeth monster all along. So there's a fucking factoid for you. Then it goes out of the dream sequence into Mike looking at the TV and seeing Lily. And then it cuts to Gary and Amy looking for Mrs. Booth, and fucking also looking for the kids and everything. They can't find, like, they find Mrs. Booth, but then they find all the kids as well, and they're surrounded basically. And then it cuts to another scene with Mike and Marla, and fucking Marla's saying that it's crazy, all this stuff is crazy, and Mike's saying, if you have to do something that you don't want to do it out of love, I'm going to tell you to do it. Basically meaning that, well, I'll actually explain it later in the review. Then we cut back after fucking, I should say after fucking Mike's wife comes in. Then we cut to goddamn Gary and Amy again. And Gary is talking to his kids, because his kids are part of the kids that are surrounding them. So he's talking to them and saying they could be a family, and somebody hurt their mom, and the people that basically helped hurt their mom is who's in their ear right now. And then we cut back to the house with Marla and Mike and his wife. And his wife is rightly so saying this is fucking delusional and saying, where the fuck is Lily? So there's that whole thing. Then Mike dips after she screams at him, and she's like, I'm not gonna go I won't force you to go anywhere, but I'm gonna go with you, basically. Because Mike was trying to explain that she could not go where Lily was, basically. We also cut back to goddamn Gary and his kids, and they're just a happy family again and everything. So there's that. Amy then tries to sit there and search Mrs. Booth's fucking mobile home. Doesn't go so well. Can't find her. All she does is find another kid named Alex, and she doesn't really get shit out of him, honestly. Then we cut back to Mike and fucking his wife again, and we finally get his wife gets acquainted to the tooth monster, fucking goddamn his brother Eddie. And Eddie takes him in to his world, and they're both he's passed out right by Lily. Then he's in the world, and he's meeting like people like the Skin Taker or Lockjaw. He's seeing all these visions of like dead children, which is just terrifying. And then he goes and he finally talks to Eddie, and Eddie basically says like, is trying to talk to him, saying, this is my room, this is where I've been, have you met the skin taker? I think that's basically all he's trying to make small talk. Like, that's the gist of his thing. He's trying to make fucking small talk. And Mike is just like, where's Lily? Tell me where Lily is. And find where Lily is. And they make a deal for Eddie can go into Mike's body as long as Lily gets to leave, basically. But then, after Lily is out of the fucking Candle Cove, out of Eddie's nightmarish hellscape, fucking goddamn Mike decides, oh, let's play that card game that we haven't finished, because they for the longest time in this show, they've had this thing of like, there's a card game that they didn't finish as a kid. So he convinces him to play the card game. And then we cut to Amy again, and she's just looking around the forest, pretty much doing nothing. Not even gonna lie, like, there's not really much to that scene at all. Then we go back to the card game. And then we go back to fucking goddamn the house with Mike's wife, fucking Marla and Lily. And Marla is hugging Lily, and basically after Mike's wife calls the police, Marla goes out to do what she intended to do before, but not before she is stopped by Mrs. Booth, who is saying some wild ass shit like usual, and then starts fucking stabbing the fuck out of Marla with the hook. And then fucking before Marla dies, she doesn't die, like before she could die, fucking Amy comes in and shoots the fuck out of Mrs. Booth in the neck. And then Marla takes the hook and jams it into her fucking skull. So, yeah, there's that. Then, fucking, the deal with the card game is that if Eddie wins, he gets to go in Mike's body, but if he doesn't, he has to stay here in Candle Cove or whatever. So, basically, Eddie wins, he says goodbye, and then it cuts to a few months later, where we get, apparently, that Mrs. Booth was responsible for all the murders. That's who's taking responsibility for all this. And then Amy has one last scene where she's about to take the painting off the wall, Gary's painting off the wall, and she doesn't. Gary and his kids move to a different fucking town. Cause fuck Iron Hill, Jesus Christ, all the shit that's going on in this shit, like, fuck, dude, I wouldn't either. And then, fucking, it cuts to Lily drawing a picture of her dad and her on a piece of paper, and we get the aftermath of Marla's stitches and everything like that. And they go and see the birds, and then Candle Cove pops on fucking the TV, and then Mike turns off that TV. So after that, Lily goes and watches the goddamn birds, but then we don't see Mike anymore. So it cuts back to after all, it goes from, a time jump to a few months. I know it sounds like, I know I'm stuttering and it's going confusing, because it actually was kind of confusing, but it makes sense in the end. So it goes forward, and then it goes backwards for the last 5 minutes to show you what happened. I don't know why I couldn't just, they had to do that cliffhanger reveal. But fucking apparently Mrs. Booth is still somehow alive. So that's how she gets convicted of all these fucking charges. And then Marla is shown to be killing, like, not killing, but like putting her fucking mouth over his mouth and holding his nose, basically, and like just murdering her son, Mike. That way Eddie can't get out there. So that was that. And then fucking Eddie finds out that he can't go, and Mike is like, I'll stay, but you're staying with me because we belong together. And that was the end of Candle Cove, right after a shot of Marla looking at a blue jay. And that is the end of Candle Cove. Well, Channel Zero Candle Cove, the first season of Channel Zero. And my thoughts on it before we get to the conclusion: it was confusing, obviously, because I was stuttering a little bit in the review, but also just fucking, it was really great. It was a really good ending to this season, I think. But on that note, should probably get to the conclusion, because this video is well over an hour at this point. But let's get to the conclusion. Alright, conclusion time for Channel Zero Candle Cove. Man, shit. Like, I really enjoyed this, like, mini-series. I know it's, like, part of an anthology. I know this is the only season I've fully watched, like, at all. I haven't seen anything else of Channel Zero. If it's this quality, then I can imagine I would probably want to see more. But honestly, like, truly, I think this was a great adaptation of the Candle Cove creepypasta. I think it was a phenomenal just series in general. Like, I wish, like, honestly, I do wish some of the creepypastas that people fucking, like, make and everything weren't so bad. Because, like, to be fair, one of the good ones, Candle Cove, like, that's a great story to make an adaptation of. And it's a great fucking creepypasta as well. It's probably the best. If you want to go, like, creepypasta in general, like, that is the best creepypasta you could do an adaptation of. It's that good. It's not something so, like, mediocre and fucking shit that has, like, terrible fucking grammar and doesn't know, and is made by a fucking 13-year-old that is just trying to be edgy and fucking, like, I don't even, dark, like, in fucking grungy. Like, this is probably the best internet horror story you could make an adaptation of. Because, I mean, 2 years after this, fucking Slender Man was made into a movie that was fucking terrible. Fucking god-awful. And, man, like, if you were to take this and then put it next to Slender Man, it'd be like taking fucking Picasso and putting it next to a goddamn finger painting. It's not even fucking close, dude. Close. But, I don't know. Like, I definitely think that if more of the creepypastas out there were like this, maybe this could have been maybe it could have went on for longer, because it only went on, Channel Zero from what I know, only went on for about 2 years before it ended. With 4 seasons, it only went on for 2 years, and just it didn't go fucking on anymore. So I couldn't I don't know if it was low ratings, or they just cut it, or they just wanted to stop it, or they just ran out of stories. Because I mean, I wouldn't blame them if they ran out of stories, because truly, if no story could be better than this, then I don't know what else they could have done, truly. But I don't know, I really enjoyed this. Like, I think it's definitely worth at least one viewing. At least the entire 6 episodes, at least one viewing, I think it's worth it. It's really enjoyable. It could be weird at times, but when it comes to horror, a lot of stuff could be weird at times. I mean, fucking the poster boys for horror is a guy in a fucking hockey mask. So, like, you know, like, I think if more horror was like this, maybe, you know, I wouldn't want to die every time I see a trailer for a new horror movie. Like, you know, the shit like Smile or Megan or fucking all that shit. Or don't even get me started on the Pooniverse. Like, all this shit that's being shoved in our faces that's just not good. Not to mention all the goddamn Conjuring movies and Insidious and all the fucking paranormal movies that we were so fucking drained of. Like, it, don't even get that. That's a talk for another day. That's a talk for another fucking day, man. But the point I'm trying to make is, if horror was more like this all the time, I don't think it would be as saturated. Like, I really don't. And I really enjoyed this. So I think on that note, like, I think honestly, my final thoughts: go watch it. Like, go watch it. It's really good. At least if you just want to watch the Candle Cove season, that's all you need to watch. Really, that's how good this fucking season is. When it comes to me covering other seasons of Channel Zero, I might. It would be my first viewing, so I don't know how it would go. But I very well might. It might be something I might have to look into. There are only 6 episodes a season, so it really isn't too bad there. So yeah, I might take a look at more Channel Zero in the future. Who knows? But I will say, fucking, this was really good. But with that being said, thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys are having a wonderful Halloween. And by the way, this is a sci-fi original. Probably should have mentioned that. But yeah, with that being said, happy Halloween and peace.